Rise and Shine Rwanda, it's Thursday the 9th of April.
Coming up on today's Rise and Shine Rwanda. Keeping the memory of those we lost alive, a duty for Rwandan's youth.
Fidelis meets a young entrepreneur using media to inspire Rwandans.
And we visit a screening for commemorative films. Good morning, it's just after 7 o'clock in the morning and you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja.
And me, Makeda Mahario. Over the next hour, we'll bring you all the latest news, sports, and lifestyle headlines from here in Rwanda and around the world, of course, with a special focus on Kwibuka 21. The Rise and Shine team are here with us in studio. Tell me, Fidelis, what do you have for us in the world of business?
Well, in business, I get to meet a young entrepreneur and genocide survivor who is using the media to educate the youth and the public in general, as well as, just tell them about what happened, teach people about what happened, and, change forever. And we're just building Rwanda.
Arnold, what do you have in the world of sports?
Weekend Premier League matches, a big one, Chelsea versus Manchester United. The Masters are here. Golf's biggest tournament is around the corner. Tiger Woods is back.
All right, looking forward to that as well. All that and more is still to come, but first, Rise and Shine story of the day.
It's something we owe to the next generations, keeping the memory of those we lost in 1994 alive. As many deniers have been doing out of late to distort the course of history, the Rwandan youth has made it its mission to tell the story accurately and make sure the coming generations don't receive the wrong information about the genocide against the Tutsi. Take a look. Memory is not just a process, it's vital. These young men and women were either too young or not even born in April 1994 as the country went through horrific times.
Twari turi ahantu ku kiliziya nyine twarahungiye mu kiliziya hari ahantu bita ku Nyundo basa nk'abaduhaye ubuhungiro nyine ariko nyuma yuko baduha ubuhungiro twabanje kubona hajya haza ibitero buhoro basa nk'abaje kuneka ukuntu aho hantu hameze nyuma yaho haza igitero no kiziye rimwe kije kumaraho badufungiye imiryango ya kiliziya yose nyuma nibwo baje kumena ibirahuri bya kiliziya ababasha kwinjira barinjira abatabasha kwinjira haza abasirikare bafite imbunda batangira kurasa mu kiliziya noneho nyuma y'imbunda babonye uburyo binjira haza bafite n'intwaro zimwe za gakondo batangira kwicamo kuko abari mu kiliziya imbere barimo basenga batangira bicaye barabica nyine harimo n'ababyeyi ariho bagendeye.
As we remember ours who perished during the genocide against the Tutsi, remembering is not just a word, it's a duty. And the youth understands that what happened will maybe be ancient history to the future generations, which means they will have to relay the information. Kubera izihe mpamvu?
Impamvu zabaye mu Rwanda rwagize ibibazo byinshi nabo ni ngombwa ko bazajya batubazaho basekuru cyangwa basekuru bari imiryango yabo ni ngombwa rero kubabwira uko byagenze.
Hari ahantu hagiye hari inzibutso kandi inzibutso zigaragaza amateka yabaye hari n'ibitabo bigenda byandikwa ko abana bazavuka bazajya basoma noneho umwana nasoma agasoma ibyerekeye amateka agasura n'izo nzibutso azajya agira information ku mateka yabaye.
At times, the Western media has changed facts according to their interests, and the Rwandan youth is not oblivious to that.
Ibyo bacishamo inyandiko zabo ni social media, kandi social media natwe dufite uburyo twazikoresha twagenda ibyo banditse bavuga ibitarabaye twe tugashyiraho proof zerekana ko hari ibyabaye, kandi ushaka kumenya amateka kuri jenoside ageze hano mu Rwanda nawe agasura izo nzibutso akareba n'imfubyi ziriho, abapfakazi, abakecuru b'incike n'abasaza, ntabwo yabura kuvuga ko hari jenoside yabayeho.
Abazungu barabikoze, babikora bifashishije kwandika no gushishikariza abanyarwanda kuko baturushaga ubwenge, ariko natwe abanyarwanda twarahumutse, turareba imbere yacu heza, ibyo tureba n'inyungu z'u Rwanda n'igihugu cyacu. Natwe rero ni ngombwa ko tugomba kubaganza tukagira icyo dukora kugira ngo batazongera.
Ihorere Rwanda, Regis Isheja, Rise and Shine Rwanda. All right, guys, so memory is key when it comes to the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. There's a lot of deniers out there, like we were talking about yesterday. But to you guys, knowing that you're going to have kids and then you're going to have grandkids, what would you want the legacy to be like? What do you want them to know?
Well, personally, I would want them to know everything, because it's one thing knowing something halfway, it's another thing knowing the whole story. I mean, they could know the genocide happened because they'll learn it in school, but I want them to know really how it happened, the whole process, because when you learn things like this and when you reflect on things like this, it helps you build a particular mindset that helps you, make sure that things like this never happen again, and not while you exist, not while you're around. And I even say all the time, I have friends, I have family who until today would still say, oh, I'm still afraid to go visit the memorial. I'm still, not comfortable doing that. And I always tell them it's a great experience when you go there, when you learn so much. And I mean, I've been there a couple of times myself, and every single time I leave, I just leave with determined and to change the situation and to make sure that Rwanda heads into a brighter future.
Would you guys want the information to be filtered as it's passed on to the next generations?
No.
Do you want certain details to, maybe details are a little too explicit to not be passed on?
It's hard to say, because I know personally when I came to the country, I was a little bit older. But before that, there was a lot of filters on what I knew. I didn't really know the details of what happened. I would just watch movies and look at the internet. But until I came here and talked to people, and actually it took years for me to know really what happened, really the real impact. Because you can see things, you can hear things, you can watch, but you can't really know until you do your own research, until you talk to people and stuff like that. And it took me a long time. So I would have rather known a lot more of that before I had come. I wish that, people had told me a little bit more, or, was a little bit more realistic. But at the same time, I think it was also a good thing that I didn't really know, all the details and everything before I came, because maybe it would have changed my experience. So I really don't know what I would want for my kids, but of course I would like, or my grandkids, but of course I would like them to know all of the details, so that they can know that something like that can never happen again, and it's so avoidable.
Now, Arnold, you're really good when it comes to knowing what the media, especially the foreign media, is saying about us. Now, when you think about movies, because Makeda is saying when she was younger, she just saw movies and she, saw the reports. But when you see movies that, came out before that didn't have necessarily the right information, at times even denying what happened, or documentaries like The Untold Story, what do you think the next generation should know?
I think the next generation is in what you call a critical phase, because they can easily be influenced by what's out there, because there's a lot of information, being what you would call the internet generation. There's the .com era. There's a lot of information they can get over the internet about different events. But then that should embed to us, to the leaders, to people who are influential in the country, of creating a system of how to pass on this information. Because where I think we may we may have a blanket in the passing of information is people necessarily think the youth should know what happened, which is an assumption. Yet you may find out the youth don't know how much of an impact it was. I'm talking about people who are born after 1994, people born in 95, 96. yes, they know the genocide against the Tutsi took place in 1994, but do they know the vivid impact of this genocide? Are we giving them the relevant information? Are we teaching it to them in schools? Because the genocide is not an accident. It's a system. You know, these machetes were brought into the country in 1992. There were plans. You know, the U.S. Got information about a planned genocide. RTL-LM, the then radio station, passed on information of where to find Tutsis to kill, meaning it was no accident. It wasn't spontaneous. You know, this was planned over a period of time. And when you talk to some of the youth born after 94, they don't know these things. Mm-hmm. And these are the people who watch a lot of TV. So with all this media bias coming out, one of the people interviewed had a very good point. He talked about the use of social media. Social media is the biggest influence of this generation. I think we should use social media and different media platforms to spread this message to the youth and tell them they should be special education for this. And I feel maybe it's a time we pushed for this to be on the Rwandan education curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys feel like it should be a course in class? Because remember, as time passes on, it's not going to be as vivid as it was maybe 5-10 years after. You know, there's going to be certain things that change. But do you think it should be taught in class, as the genocide against the Tutsis should be taught in class as a course?
I think it will be taught in class.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no choice. I mean, that is the history of the country, you know, so
I think it should be taught in school, and people should be taken to these sites. They should meet the people who were who experienced it firsthand, so they can tell them their testimonies. I mean, it's one thing when you hear a story that was told and then passed on to other people, because they tend to change it up a little bit. But when you talk to someone who experienced it firsthand, they tell you exactly what they saw, what they went through. Then you get the real information. Then it's not, you know, a bad source. So I feel like students should be encouraged to meet all these survivors, and they get to hear the testimonies, as well as, you know, go to the Memorial Center, like I said, because it has really good information.
Well, we'd love to hear, of course, your comments on this conversation as well, so make sure that you find us on social media. You are watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Connect to Lusaka 3 times a week starting 27th March. Enjoy comfort and safety at affordable fares to 17 other destinations across Africa and the Middle East.
Fly our dream to the heart of Africa.
How can there still be genocide?
When lessons should have been learned. When we know how to stop and prevent it.
It simply should never have happened.
This is the light. The light of remembrance. The light of life. And as long as I live, the spirit of Rwanda will never die.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's get to today's business news. Fidelis Karangwa has the details.
Business stories making headlines today. The first group of grain farmers will be receiving their first installment of low-interest loans from EcoBank following a recent deal signed between the East African Exchange and selected banks. The deal, which was signed last year, has over 6 farmers awaiting credit under the Warehouse Receipt System Agreement. The credit will offer the farmers a much-needed financial source, as most commercial banks do not lend to the agricultural sector, arguing that it is risky. And the government has created an investment unit trust fund that will gather resources for both small income earners and large institutional investors. The initiative is aimed at investing the funds in money markets, bonds and equities, as well as diaspora bonds. The Rwanda National Investment Trust Limited will be financed by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning for the first 3 years, after which it will go private. This will enable it to operate as an investment management institution, providing access for investors into financial markets while creating an environment for promotion of savings and development of capital markets in Rwanda. Now, media is one of the main tools that was used to plan and encourage the killing of the Tutsi during the 1994 genocide, an unfortunate situation which one genocide survivor experienced and is determined to change. Today, we meet a young entrepreneur who is using the same tool to send messages of hope and peace throughout the country. Take a look. If you were to meet Marcel on a normal day, you would never guess that this IT graduate and hardworking father is anything but happy at all times. Unfortunately, him, like many other people in Rwanda, experienced the genocide firsthand at the young age of 5.
In genocide, I was only 5, and was living with my parents and family, the entire family. As you can imagine, I was very young. I can't remember everything what happened that time, but I still have a ground picture of what happened in 1994. We went together with my parents and the whole family, where in Nerahamwe ordered us to go in a big house. At the end, before that, we went into the church, in the Catholic church, where in Nerahamwe gathered all Tutsis of Gikomero sector. Was like a commune. There was a commune in Gikomero that time, now is Gasabo. And we were around more than 5,000 people in one church. After between 4 and 5 days, they locked the church. We stayed there. After, we moved from the church to another side, where Interahamwe was gathered with a machete to kill us. They started killing, but at the end, by chance or by miracle, one of militia came and took me from that grave of many people, and he saved me. He was killing other people, but because he knew my dad, he saved me. So after that, we ran away with him till the point we met RPF in Hotanyi to go with them till 1995 after genocide.
Having experienced such a traumatic time in his life did not slow Marcel down. In 2011, he started his own media house known as umuseke.com that brings news to over 100 people daily. We asked him why he chose to name it Umuseke.
Umuseke in English is dawn, the first light in the morning. We wanted to participate in the dawning process of the country. That's why we chose that name, Umuseke. And every time you think Umuseke, yeah, we are just shining with Rwanda, we are starting with Rwanda and participate in that period of dawning. I found that media and young people, they're like major tools of the genocide against the Tutsi. I decided to use the same tools. I gathered young people like me, because I did IT at university, thinking that I can use the same tool, media and youth, and in transforming and also building the community again in peacemaking, and also heal the wounds of genocide. Now, 4 years later, Umuseke is the second most popular news website in Rwanda. We publish news in English and Kinyarwanda. It is like a general news. We update people about what is happening in Rwanda and elsewhere. But our particular, the editorial line, it is in peacemaking.
Despite his difficult journey where he lost his family members and friends, he remains strong and determined to make a better life for himself and to develop his country. An inspiration indeed. Karangwa Fidelis, Rise and Shine Rwanda. And joining us now in studio is Marcel Mutsinda Shaka, the CEO and founder of umuseke.com. Welcome, Marcel, to the show.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So there's a reason why you focused on media in particular. Do you remember during the genocide, I know you were very young, but do you still remember listening to the radio or watching the television and hearing these messages being passed on about, sensitizing the people to kill other people? Do you remember that?
As I told you, at 5, where the brain of a kid of 5 years can't capture everything. But I learned about genocide really after that, after the genocide, after 1994. But I was living as I was a victim, was living in its effect. But I don't really remember what the radio was airing, what the TV was broadcasting. But after the genocide is when I started analyzing what TV was broadcasting, what radio was airing, and also the newspaper, and following the international media, also local media, analyzing exactly why the genocide happened and how they prepared it. That's where I realized the impact and even the role of media in genocide.
So what did you take out of this experience, this unfortunate experience that you experienced, but you were able to come out of it, and what makes you the man that you are today?
A reason from this tragedy of genocide was just to make me strong and very resilient, but not only on my behalf, but also for the community in Rwanda, mostly young people. Looking how young people participated in genocide, and I know now they are regretting. I was thinking, exactly as a young people, as a victim, maybe I can't do revenge, but at least I can contribute positively in the changing this country from the grave of genocide to a brighter future of peacemaking and reconciliation. That's how I learned about genocide, and also living the everyday of being orphan, of like losing care of parents. That's when I sat down and think, yeah, this happened, but I can do something to improve and also to change the mindset of people, mostly young, using the same tools.
So now I know you started Umuseke basically mainly to, like you say, to change and help the youth to understand, more about our country and to learn from it and to build on it. But what are some of the challenges that you experienced while trying to set up this company, and that has made you, and where are you right now? How is it doing?
Yeah, as a social entrepreneur, to start is not easy. First thing is the capital. But likely, as I told you, I did IT at the university. I had skills in my mind. I started the website at my own. I sat down and developed the website. But the money to invest in media, buy digital cameras, all equipments, and also to pay the journalist, also the lack of skills. I did IT, no idea about journalism. That was also a challenge. But how I solved that is that I met other people at my age who did journalism, mainly the chief editor, the guy who is the chief editor now, is Samba Kyuzuzo. He did journalism and he's very good at it. I met him, I shared my idea. He agreed to sit with me and start from scratch without even paying him. He told me, yeah, your idea is very good. I'm very much engaged in this. Let me come and sit with you. You bring your IT skills, I bring my media skills, then we merge and do something. Now, that's how I solved it. But still paying the staff, buying equipments, I needed money to buy that. As I told you, doing IT and being good in that was like an added value to what I do. I did IT consultants, developing websites, mobile applications like server configurations. Money from that, I invest in media. That's how I grow the business till this side now. That now media can make money and IT can make money. It's in its own. Yeah.
Now I understand you've basically been setting a good example and even sharing your story, not only in Rwanda, but some of the achievements is that you've even gone all the way even to America to spread some of the ideas that you have. Tell us a bit more about some of these achievements that you've been able to achieve so far.
Yeah, what you highlighted is a Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI in short, where I was among 500 young African leaders selected in the entire country. I went to US for a program of 6 weeks where I was at Yale University in Connecticut. Later met Obama, the president of the US. Why I went there is because what I am doing, not only Rwanda highlighted that, even the whole world saw that. They were looking for young people who are transforming the society, who are impacting. So I applied for that, and then US Embassy selected. Later, our application went to Washington. They did the interview selection, and then they awarded me that to be one of YALI, where I met other 500 innovative, brilliant entrepreneurs in Africa, sharing our experience. I ran a lot from them, and also they learned a lot from me. Later, I came back in Rwanda to go further for my social enterprise.
Now, lastly, before we finish, I know now you're mostly based on trying to change your community and try to build on it. So what have you planned as Umuseke for during this period that is meant to help the community and educate the community about what happened in 1994?
In every commemoration period, Umuseke plan a specific program for commemoration. Like last year, we met 20 people who survived alone in their families, who lost everyone in their family, men alone. We met them and wrote testimonies. We published them, and it helped most of them in advocacy and also in inspiring people. But now in this commemoration 21 commemoration period, we are meeting young people in universities, telling them about peace building and resilience. How can you build a success from a traumatic history? We have a program of running in different universities and then meet young people and tell them about resilience and peacemaking through the traumatic period of Rwanda.
It's truly amazing what you're doing, Marcel, and we wish you all the best in your future plans.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, you're up to date with today's business headlines. Sports news coming up next in just a minute with Arnold Quizera.
Ibyo twashima ni byinshi. Mbere na mbere nashima leta y'ubumwe iduhora hafi, leta y'ubumwe idufasha mu bikorwa bya buri munsi. Nkashimira leta y'ubumwe nyuma y'imyaka 21 jenoside yakorewe abatutsi baye mu Rwanda. Abantu bari bafite ikibazo cyo kwishishanya, kumva ko tutari bamwe, ariko kugeza ubu ngubu abantu tukaba twumva ko turi bamwe, turi abanyarwanda, tukaba turi abanyarwanda badafite amoko, ahubwo tukaba turi abanyarwanda bafite ubunyarwanda muri bo.
Nshimira leta y'ubumwe aho yadukuye ndetse n'aho itugejeje nk'urubyiruko bitewe n'amateka y'igihugu cyacu cyanyuzemo, twari kuba twarabaye ingwate z'amateka, turi imfubyi, ariko kugeza ubu dufite ababyeyi, turiga, twabashije kubona ubushobozi bwo kwiga, ubuzima burimo buragenda neza, dukomeza kandi tubyishimira.
Nyuma ya jenoside twongeye kwiga kandi twiga nta vangura, abahungu n'abakobwa bibonye mu myigire kandi bitagendeye ku moko.
Amashanyarazi twarayabonye, mu bitaro turi kubibona, amashuri turi kuyabona.
Mbere byari bibi ariko buno byabaye byiza bitewe n'uko baduhaye mituweli, bakaduha za giringa, bakaduha za VUP, mbese buno tumeze neza nta kibazo. Kuko n'ibitaro byatuje hafi nta kibazo.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Time now for your sports news. I'm Arnold Quizera. Starting with athletics, over 3,500 athletes from across the world are expected to take part in the 10th edition of the Kigali Peace Marathon, scheduled for May the 23rd to May the 24th. Starting as a way to use sports in healing and reconciliation process after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, this year's edition will attract athletes from neighboring countries like Burundi, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and as far as Europe and the USA. There will be a full marathon of 42 kilometers, half marathon of 21 kilometers, and a family run of 5 kilometers, with all categories starting and ending at the Amahoro Stadium. Moving on to handball, after suffering a crushing defeat to Police last week, APR Handball Club are keen to return to winning ways when they play Gichumbi on April 18th in the Handball League. Former champions APR endured their maiden defeat of the season by narrowly losing 14-17 to rivals Police Handball Club at Kimisagara Youth Center Courts on Match Day 3. The military side, who last won the league title in 2010, are hoping to dethrone holders Police for the league title this season. In the English Premier League, the Premier League returns this weekend with some intriguing fixtures. None more than third-placed Manchester United stripped Stamford Bridge to take on runaway leaders Chelsea. Van Gaal's team are the Premier League form team, and a win against Jose Mourinho's Blues will open up a late title bid with 6 games to play. Defending champions Manchester City will hope to bounce back from their Monday blues as they host Sam Allardyce's West Ham at the Etihad Stadium. Liverpool are away to Hull City, while Arsenal's fixture against Sunderland has been postponed.
All right, Arnold. Now, a great way of healing is, usually through sports, because then people can get together, reflect on what happened, but also, use the whole being together to actually move on to a, better and nicer place. Tell us about this marathon.
The Peace Marathon is going to be in its 10th year running. It was, started up by the Rwanda Athletics Federation, and it's run by the National Olympic Committee of Rwanda. They're trying, this year's marathon is going to be bigger than the previous years. Already over 3,000 people have confirmed their participation in the event. It's not as big as the New York or London marathons, but the difference here is the message being sent out. So many, as Rwanda came back from 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, earlier in the week I had a guest, Mark Gwamaka, the founder of Walk to Remember, and he emphasized the need for sports to heal people, because it gives people an extracurricular activity that it unites people. It's if someone is your teammate. Some of the great stories we had from the survivors of the genocide was they were saved by their teammates. You had players in SC Kiyovu Football Club then, from Rayon Sports Football Club, who saved their teammates because they worked with them, who were being hunted by the Interahamwe militia. And that shows you the power of sport in uniting. And that's a message that has been pushed in different sports aspects. And another important factor to note is that all these federations, this weekend there are going to be no sporting activities. We don't have the National Volleyball League. We don't have the National Football League. All of them, they're not going to hold them in memory of those that were lost in the genocide. But then again, we're going to have memorial tournaments later in the month. And that's from the National Volleyball League has confirmed its date. That's going to be the last weekend of this month. We're going to have the National Volleyball Memorial Tournament. Rugby or Ores also hosts a tournament. We also tend to have the Peace Cup, which is played in football, and which the winner tends to represent Rwanda at the CAF Confederations Cup, which shows you also the value of this game. So it's a win-win situation. It unites people, and then it gives credit to these football teams.
Nothing heals like sports.
Nothing better than sports.
Thank you, Arnold. You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. We'll be right back after the break.
ubu ngubu nshimishijwe no kuba mu Rwanda kuko harimo umutekano. Nkasaba buri wese yaba unyumva ari mu gihugu cyangwa ari hanze yacyo ko yashimishwa no kuba mu Rwanda kuko rufite umutekano kandi rufite amahoro.
Ubu ngubu ikiba kinejeje nuko nshimira n'u Rwanda no kubera ko hariho umutekano mwiza, kandi ikindi buri muntu wese abasha kumva ko afite agaciro. Ubu ngubu nkaba nshimira n'u Rwanda ko nkenera no kuba nanarubamo cyane kubera ko rufitemo amahoro.
Ubu ngenda shima u Rwanda kuko rwadukuye mu bihe bibi twari tugezemo, none ubu ngubu nkabona ko bitazongera, nkarushima kuko umutekano rwatanze ruhumuriza abantu, abari mu bwigunge rukabazamura, uri hasi rukamubasha kumushyira hejuru. Mu by'ukuri biratunezeza, njyewe ni icyizere ko tugiye gutera imbere, kandi no mu bigaragara u Rwanda rwaduteje imbere. Ubu umutekano warabonetse, yaba polisi y'u Rwanda, abasirikare n'izindi nzego bafatanyije.
Twisenga Mediatrice, nyuma ya jenoside ubuzima bwari bukomeye kubera abantu baragifite agahinda kenshi mu mitima, ariko ko imyaka yagiye iza twagiye twishyiramo icyizere cyo kubaho. Twari dufite ubuyobozi bwiza buturenganura.
nitwa Tuyishime Sauda nkaba ntuye mu mudugudu w'izuba mu kagari ka Rukiri ya mbere. Nyuma ya jenoside ngewe nagize icyizere numva nkomeye muri ngewe. Mbere umukobwa ntago yagiraga ijambo ngo abe yahagarara mu bandi ngo avuge, abe yayobora, abe yagira n'uburenganzira ku mutungo w'iwabo, ariko ubu umuntu arazungura nta kibazo. Kubw'ibyo rero ngewe nkaba narabonye rwose byaranteje imbere.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's take a look now at newsmaking headlines here in Rwanda and around the world.
Legislators have been called on to join the battle against genocide ideology and revisionism. Donatir Mukabalisa, the Speaker of Parliament, in an address at the closure of the first ordinary sessions of the August House, said, quote, "Let us join hands in mourning and honoring our beloved ones who perished and also devise possible measures to ensure that ideology and revisionism is defeated once and for all." The 21st commemoration focuses on fighting genocide ideology and denial, as well as continued support to survivors to overcome consequences of the genocide.
Rwandans around the world joined their countrymen and women at home to commemorate the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Many events were held all over the globe under the umbrella of this year's theme, Remember, Unite, Renew, with a focus on genocide denial and revisionism, and honoring those who rescued people during the genocide. Some of the cities that hosted commemoration events include Moscow, New Delhi, Dakar, Brussels, Addis Ababa, the Netherlands, Kampala, Arusha, and Paris. In London, the Rwandan Community Association held a walk to the BBC headquarters in a stand against genocide denial.
Former president of the Liberal Party and former Rwandan envoy to Ethiopia, Prote Mitari, has been suspended indefinitely. The decision was made by the Liberal Party during a crisis meeting after Mitari fled to Europe when the party demanded that he pay back funds he's accused of having pilfered. They also vowed to take Mitari to court to reclaim the misappropriated funds. Mitari reportedly fled to Europe last week after he was recalled by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs following an official complaint of suspected embezzlement from his party.
And in international news, the French government has decided to declassify archived documents relating to the 1994 genocide. The archives span 1990 to 1995 and are essentially official documents from the president's office during a time when France's role has attracted much controversy. Ties between France and Rwanda have been strained since His Excellency Paul Kagame accused Paris of complicity in the genocide because of its support of the Hutu nationalist government in power at the time. Okay, lots more still to come. We'll be right back.
How can there still be genocide?
When lessons should have been learned. When we know how to stop and prevent it.
It simply should never have happened.
This is the light. The light of remembrance. The light of life. And as long as I live, the spirit of Rwanda will never die.
Now, for today's movie segment, I prepared a special Kwibuka 21 edition for you. We all know the importance of telling our own stories, especially when it comes to Rwanda's complicated past. That's why every year during Chunamo, the Kwetu Film Institute has a special commemoration screening of films relevant to the time. This year, I went to check it out. Take a look. Over the past 15 years, Eric Kabera and Kwetu Film Institute has been hosting a special commemoration screening to observe Rwanda's annual week of remembrance of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. This year, Keepers of Memory, 100 Days, and Iseta are three of the films that were selected for the event. So, I went to check it out.
Family by family, road by road, roadblock by roadblock, people were being exterminated.
Here it's an event that we organize at the Kwetu Film Institute in partnership with Hotel de Milko in Kapensky, and we do these things for free. But what we want to do is actually to raise awareness, to raise literally the interest from the young people in Rwanda and outside of Rwanda, and most importantly, the people who are not aware literally of the magnitude of the pain that the survivors went through. And we do it as part of our responsibility of the people who live on this, in this country, as the people who, lost their loved ones as well. But most importantly, to tell the survivors that we really care, that we really understand, however painful it is that we have to share these things, but we have to.
One of the main concerns about many in the film and media industry is that too often Rwandan stories are told for her rather than by her. And Eric has something to say about that.
I think it's very, very important to have the Rwandan themselves, or the young men and women whose story is so dear to them, to actually start observing and telling their stories. Because what it is in most cases, all the films that have been made for the last 10 or 15 years, most of them have been done by foreign journalists or by foreign producers or by foreign companies. So it's kind of very important that we actually have to embark on a journey of telling our stories as well, and that's where establishments such as Kwetu Film Institute comes in, whereby we teach people technically on basic techniques on how to do these kind of things, but most importantly so that they can also appreciate their history, their present situations, and future perspective.
Tonight, the focus is on looking back, and I just had to see what at least one of the viewers had to say about this intense experience.
Many feelings, right? From serious pain and anger and sadness. That is really, it's very strong. Every year, I'm really sad during this particular period. I was watching a film before, and this person said, "You can't experience this, and when you experience this, you become a lesser person." And I think it's true. I think I become a lesser person. But on the other hand, it also reminds me of my role here and what I'm supposed to do, and that I'm not here, can't take anything for granted. When we tell our own stories, we tell them with the appropriate respect. It's us sharing our experience, first of all with ourselves, to help us heal, but eventually with other people, but it starts with us.
People being inspired by the work and this film institute and others like it, turning out new filmmakers all the time, more and more accurate accounts of the Rwandan experience are sure to come. Makeda Mahario, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
Great to see that the film industry is doing something about what happened in 1994. Now, we were talking earlier, Makeda, about how films about the genocide came out, 10, 15 years ago, and that didn't necessarily depict exactly what happened. In this case, what do you think is going to happen?
In the future?
Yes.
Well, I think that, like I said in the video, I think that more and more Rwandan people who are going to start taking films into their own hands, that's when the stories are going to start becoming more and more accurate. But actually, one of the films that was shown that night at Milkulin, it was called 100 Days, and that was actually the first movie ever made about the Rwandan genocide.
By Rwandans.
Yes, it was produced by Eric Kabera, the
Right.
person that you saw there in the movie. And like he said, it's important to keep telling these stories, to make sure that they're accurate, to make sure that people who lost their lives and people who also survived and people who are a result of that as well get shown the proper respect that they should get. You know. So yeah, I think it's definitely important. It was really enlightening actually being there and seeing that so many people who were there. There were a lot of Rwandans there, but a lot of them were people who were from other countries. People
and I'm
who were
curious about.
Yeah, people
right.
who were staying in the hotel, or just people who had heard about the event, and they were actually learning. They were seeing films that were selected and that were produced by Rwandan people. So it's not like you're going to get the wrong story.
Right. I don't know what kind of details you got when you actually went to Milcolin, but did they tell you about how long it took, how tough it was to actually make the movie?
Make which movie? Because they
100,
showed 3.
100 days.
No, we didn't talk about the actual making of the movie. It was made years and years ago.
Right.
But he did say that it was hard to, because it was the first film, it was hard to get people to kind of open up. It was hard to get people to, it's a scripted movie, so it's hard to, he had to kind of train people and things like that. So yeah, as you can imagine, the first of anything, it's going to be something to work on. But now that the Kwetu Institute is there and he's running that as well, there are places, and it's not like that's the only place, So there are a lot of places now where you can, if you want to tell a story, you can go, you can learn the technical side, you can learn to act, you can learn to write, and you can make that happen, And I see that there are a lot of people. Fidelis has done a story on filmmakers. I have as well. So
I did as well.
Yeah.
Kanharama, right.
Exactly. So there are people who are taking this upon themselves and doing it, and I think it's important, although it's hard, it's difficult, like what Thierry was saying in the thing. It's hard to see those images again and things like that, but it's important to never forget and to show that respect at this time.
Hopefully they'll be doing it every year during Kwibuka.
They definitely will. They've been doing it for the past about 10-15 years. They've been doing it, and it's going to be going on for the rest of the week, I think. Also at Serena and different places, so that they can find different tourists and stuff to show them. But it's going to be going on as well for the course of the 100 days.
Right.
So yeah, it's if you want to see any of those films, go and check them out.
That's a great report, Makeda. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Don't forget, we love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page, where you can catch all the shows and reports we do. Find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We'd love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'd love to hear your feedback, so do let us know if you have an idea for the program. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja.
And me, Makeda Mahadio. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow. So do join us then. But for now, from the both of us and the rest of the Rise and Shine team, have a great day.
How can there still be genocide?
Your memory alive.
When lessons should have been learned. When we know how to stop and prevent it.
It simply should never have happened.
This is the light. The light of remembrance. The light of life. And as long as I live, the spirit of Rwanda will never die.
ibyo twashima ni byinshi. Mbere na mbere nashima leta y'ubumwe iduhora hafi, leta y'ubumwe idufasha mu bikorwa bya buri munsi. Nkashimira leta y'ubumwe nyuma y'imyaka 21 jenoside yakorewe abatutsi baye mu Rwanda. Abantu bari bafite ikibazo cyo kwishishanya, kumva ko tutari bamwe, ariko kugeza ubu ngubu abantu tukaba twumva ko turi bamwe, turi abanyarwanda, tukaba turi abanyarwanda badafite amoko, ahubwo tukaba turi abanyarwanda bafite ubunyarwanda muri bo.
Nshimira leta y'ubumwe aho yadukuye ndetse n'aho itugejeje nk'urubyiruko, bitewe n'amateka igihugu cyacu cyanyuzemo, twari kuba twarabaye ingwate z'amateka, turi imfubyi, ariko kugeza ubu dufite ababyeyi, turiga, twabashije kubona ubushobozi bwo kwiga, ubuzima burimo buragenda neza, dukomeza kandi tubyishimira.
Nyuma ya jenoside twongeye kwiga, kandi twiga nta vangura. Abahungu n'abakobwa bibonye mu myigire kandi bitagendeye ku moko.
Amashanyarazi twarayabonye, mu bitaro turi kubibona amashuri turi kuyabona
mbere byari bibi ariko buno byabaye byiza bitewe nuko baduhaye mituweli bakaduha za giringa bakaduha za VUP mbese buno tumeze neza nta kibazo kuko n'ibitaro byatuje hafi nta kibazo
nageze kuri byinshi mfite perime mfite inka mu rugo abana baranywa barumura abanye baranywa amata nta kibazo gihari
mu by'ukuri ibintu washima leta y'ubumwe ni byinshi cyane mbere na mbere ndashima leta y'ubumwe bw'abanyarwanda ko yaturokoye ikadukura ahantu habi nakwita ku cyavu kugeza ubu ngubu tukaba dutengamaye
uko twari tumeze uko mbere igihugu cyari kimeze nuko kimeze ubu ngubu biratandukanye cyane ubu ngubu turiga abatari bafite ubushobozi bwo kwiga twabashije kwiga bashyizeho 12 yazo umuntu arigira ubuntu nta kibazo igihugu cyacu kiri gutera imbere
nishimira ibintu byinshi ariko ndavuga mu magambo atatu icyambere nishimira ni umutekano igihugu gifite kuko umutekano w'u Rwanda ndabizi ni intangagaciro mu karere ndetse nta mwana atawubona icya kabiri nishimira ni agaciro igihugu cyacu gifite mu mahanga uko u Rwanda rufatwa ni iby'agaciro nta bitahesha agaciro icya gatatu nishimira ni umwe abanyarwanda bafite abanyarwanda twunze ubumwe kandi iyo mufite ubumwe byose mubishyika ahubwo muri make nishimira umutekano agaciro igihugu cyacu gifite mu mahanga ndetse n'ubumwe bw'abanyarwanda
ubu ngubu ibintu rwose ni byiza bimeze neza umuntu arireba muri leta akisangamo nta kibazo kihabaye Kagame yaduhaye amatungo n'ibindi byinshi dore n'ubu twabonye n'umuriro twabonye amavuriro bugufi yacu twabonye amashuri bugufi yacu ibyo byose ni iterambere yatuzaniye
ikintu nishimira ni ubuyobozi bwiza iyi leta twagiraga ikibazo tukarwarira mu rugo kubera ko nta mituweli ukabura uburyo waje kwivuza bitewe n'ingufu ngewe ifite ukaba warembera mu rugo ukaba wagwa no mu rugo ariko kubera ubuyobozi bwiza dufite batugejejeho ubwisungane bwa mituweli badushishikariza kuyitanga buri wese arayitanga ubwo iyo ugize ikibazo unyarukira kwa muganga ubwo turadusaba no kugira ngo aje batukorera ubuvugizi aho tujya tugera hose kubera abantu bamwe bagenda bavuga abantu ba mituweli ntabwo babitaho kandi babitaho aje badukorera serivisi nziza yihuse
twishimira ko abanyarwanda ubu batuje batekanye twishimira ko twiga dufite amahoro nta masasa kutuvugiraho twishimira ibintu byinshi cyane mbese namwe muba mubibona amashuri imihanda ni ibintu byinshi cyane twishimira amacakubiri yararangiye
ikintu nishimira kabisa ni ukuntu abanyarwanda babanye n'iterambere rimaze kugerwaho dukurikije ukuntu amateka bivuga ukuntu twari tubanye hebwe urubyiruko nta kibazo kabisa nta macakubiri turiga amashuri bimeze neza turishimye muri make
icyambere na mbere abantu ntabwo baba bafitanye icyizere icyo ni icyambere kandi iyo abantu badafitiye icyizere nta gikorwa ariko nyuma none ibintu byagenze neza haza kuba kugarura ubumwe ariko leta y'ubumwe ariyo itangiye kubikora itugaruramo ubumwe none hasigaye tugirana icyizere ku buryo umuntu yahuraga n'undi akumva amufitiye ubwoba ariko nyuma aho abantu tumaze kugirana icyizere nta bwoba bwongeye kubaho